Gervonta "Tank" Davis was seen as boxing's next great, the heir to Mayweather's throne, the knockout king with speed, power, and charisma that filled arenas. But now, the same man who once ruled the ring is fighting a battle outside of it, one he can't win with punches. As the courtroom fell silent, the reality hit harder than any uppercut he's ever thrown. This wasn't about titles or belts. This was about consequence, the price of fame, fortune, and choices made when the cameras aren't rolling. What happened next left fans stunned, the boxing world divided, and Tank's legacy hanging. Russell described a terrifying scene, saying Davis showed up unannounced, furious, and out of control. She claims he grabbed her by the arm, threw her phone across the room, and wouldn't let her leave. Her lawyers allege it lasted for nearly an hour before security intervened. In the report, Russell says this wasn't an isolated moment. It was the breaking point of months of abuse and threats. And the timing couldn't be worse. Just as Tank was preparing for one of the biggest fights and paydays of his career, this lawsuit dropped like a bombshell. Overnight, sponsors went silent. Fans started questioning his character. And Jake Paul's camp wasted no time using it as ammo, calling for the fight to be canceled until justice was served. But the real question now isn't just about the fight. It's about whether Gervonta Davis's career Just when Davis was preparing for what could have been the biggest payday of his career, a blockbuster showdown with Jake Paul on Netflix, everything is now hanging by a thread. Sources close to the promotion say the event is on pause, with Netflix and MVP, Most Valuable Promotions, monitoring the legal situation closely. Sponsors are quietly backing away, and Showtime insiders claim this could be the final straw for a fighter who's been given too many chances already. Tank's team hasn't issued a full statement yet, but insiders say they're scrambling to control the damage, insisting the allegations are exaggerated and that Davis plans to fight back in court. Still, public sentiment has shifted. The once celebrated knockout artist is now being seen less as a boxing prodigy and more as a cautionary tale of wasted talent. That they were actively reviewing the situation. They also made it clear that the safety and well-being of everyone involved is the top priority, a line that spoke volumes. Behind the scenes, sources revealed that Netflix, which was set to stream the Davis vs. Jake Paul mega event, immediately froze all promotional activity tied to Tank's name. Training camp footage, press tour plans, even teaser trailers, everything was halted pending the investigation's outcome. For a fighter who built his brand on being the one, this was the one blow he couldn't dodge. His biggest moment, gone in an instant. Everything they've built. Sponsors started backing away quietly. Showtime executives, who'd worked with Tank for years before his move to Netflix, declined to comment. Even major boxing outlets stopped promoting the fight poster. Social media went into chaos. Some fans defended him, saying everyone deserves due process. Others were furious, saying this was the final straw in a long list of violent incidents. But one thing everyone agreed on, this wasn't going away anytime soon. What was supposed to be Gervonta Davis's crowning moment, a global showdown streamed to millions, was now turning into the biggest scandal of his career. Gone was the diamond-studded Tank who strutted into arenas with swagger and confidence. In that courtroom, he wasn't a superstar, he was just another man facing consequences. Reporters described the moment as surreal. The same fighter who once walked out to roaring crowds and flashing lights now sat silently behind a defense table, head down, barely making eye contact with anyone. No entourage. No bravado. Just the echo of the judge's words and the reality that his entire future, his career, his reputation, even his freedom, was hanging in the balance. And that's when it really hit fans. This wasn't just another controversy. This was a fall from grace in real time. Might be the first time he truly realized how far he'd fallen. The courtroom went silent as officers rushed to help him up. Cameras weren't allowed inside, but eyewitnesses described the moment as chilling. The undefeated champion, the knockout artist feared by everyone at 135, now shaking, emotional, and broken. It was a moment that stripped away all the glamour and noise of boxing. No lights, no belts, no cheers. Just a man facing the consequences of everything he thought he could outrun. too damaging to sweep under the rug. This wasn't just another bad headline or a PR nightmare. This was a full-blown crisis. The kind that can end a career, erase a legacy, and turn fans into critics overnight. For years, Tank's power in the ring made people forget his problems outside of it. But now, the spotlight isn't on his knockouts. It's on his choices. And this time, no amount of wins, apologies, or comebacks may be enough to save him. The incident alone should have been a massive wake-up call, but it wasn't. Just months later, new allegations surfaced. And in 2022, he was arrested again, this time for another domestic dispute where a woman claimed he hit her in the face during an argument. The charges were eventually dropped, but the damage to his reputation was done. Still, Tank kept winning, kept knocking people out. And every time, fans seemed to forgive him, saying, asterisk, he's young, he'll learn. Asterisk, but here we are, years later, and nothing's changed. The same pattern, the same violence, the same headlines. Only now, the stakes are higher than ever. Anymore, it was a clear, undeniable pattern. Women from all over the world had come forward, sharing similar stories of fear, intimidation, and abuse. By December 2022, when Tank faced yet another domestic violence charge, even the most loyal fans could no longer turn a blind eye. Even though that case was eventually dropped, the pattern had been firmly established. It wasn't just bad luck or misunderstandings anymore. It was a consistent thread of behavior that now threatens to overshadow everything he's ever accomplished in the ring. The boxing world, once enamored by his power and charisma, is now forced to confront the fighter behind the headlines and the consequences. Also spent 44 days in jail in 2023 for violating the terms of his house arrest, stemming from that 2020 hit-and-run incident, a crash that could have ended lives. It's been one crisis after another, a pattern of behavior that's impossible to ignore. For years, fans excused it, saying, he's young. He'll grow out of it. But at 30 years old, that argument doesn't hold any weight. Even Jake Paul weighed in, calling out the fighter's repeated missteps and highlighting how this latest lawsuit could derail what was supposed to be one of the biggest fights of his career. The reality is clear. Tank's talent in the ring can't erase a history of bad decisions outside of it, and the next chapter of his life may be the most defining yet. An exhibition on November 14th in Miami, backed by a massive Netflix contract. It promised to be one of the biggest crossover bouts in modern boxing, pitting two of the sport's most controversial figures against each other in front of a global audience. But now, that entire spectacle is at risk of never happening. As soon as news of Tank's new charges broke, Jake's team reportedly went into full damage control mode. Insiders say Jake was furious, not just because the fight might be cancelled, but because of everything he had poured into it. Months of intense training camps, promotional efforts, sponsorship deals, and the massive hype built to capture millions of viewers worldwide. What was supposed to be a career-defining moment suddenly turned into a public relations nightmare. Suddenly felt wasted. Jake Paul was reportedly frustrated and even somber about the situation. "I don't know. I'm kind of in a sad mood," he said to insiders. People don't realize how much effort goes into these training camps, weeks of pushing yourself to the limit, only to have it threatened because someone can't control themselves outside the ring. Beat up a girl, drag her through a parking lot, punch her in the face, it's like, bro. But this wasn't entirely unexpected. Jake had been warning people about Tank's offering issues for months. During a previous press conference, he called out Davis's history of violence directly, saying that stepping into the ring isn't just about opponents, it's about facing the demons outside of it too. For Jake, this fight was never just a sporting event. It was a test of character, and insiders have spoken out, expressing disbelief and frustration over the latest allegations. Some have publicly voiced support for the alleged victim, emphasizing that the sport can no longer turn a blind eye to behavior that brings shame to boxing. Veterans of the ring argue that talent and fame shouldn't excuse violent or criminal behavior. "We can't keep protecting guys just because they sell tickets or knock people out," one source said. The consensus is clear. The focus must shift from adoring the fighter to holding them accountable. Tank's actions aren't just a personal problem. They reflect on the entire sport, and for many, the line has finally been crossed. Interview 15. This could be the end of Gervonta Davis as fans have known him. Sponsors are reportedly stepping away, unwilling to risk association. Netflix is holding emergency meetings to reassess the event, and multiple sources say Jake Paul's team is already exploring new opponents. They know that if Tank ends up behind bars, the fight is completely dead, and what was meant to be a historic event could vanish overnight.